So it's kicked off again in Israel, Palestine, Arab countries around it, Gaza, Jerusalem, Beit Hanun, the one nearer the border to Egypt. Anyway, we're not going to go into who's wrong or right. In the war, you don't know who's wrong or right, you just know who's left. Get it? War doesn't decide who's right. War decides who's left. You get it? You get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? You know, really what we have now with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, again, it's every few years, isn't it? Just every few years. We have the apparent last stand of the Palestinians. Now, these are a people who, for decades now, haven't given up. Look, I'm not romanticizing it, I'm just telling you the facts, the way the Palestinian sees it. Massive occupier, massive aggressor. They're like, you know, to the Palestinians, the Israelis are the Nazis. You know, blitzkrieg into Gaza, blitzkrieg into the West Bank. Let's occupy East Jerusalem, 1967. Again, war doesn't decide who's right. War decides who has the might. And unfortunately, the might is right because the might writes the history books. Now, nowadays it's a bit different because information isn't just the winning army. They don't murder all the scribes of the opposing army and you get a bit more information. So the last stand of the Palestinians, I'm going to compare it to the siege of Masada in the First Roman-Jewish War in 70 AD. That's where I am. The siege of Masada, again, the most famous Jewish last stand. The Romans came in. There was a cliff top, a kind of castle on the hill, very much like Edinburgh Castle. The Romans were like, knock, 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 come out. And the Jewish people, 1,000 of them, 1,000 men, women and children. The grown-ups said no. And what did they do? They all committed suicide. Obviously the grown-ups had to murder their own children because they didn't want to accept the Roman knock at the door. Now look, I'm not going to get into what were the Romans going to do to the Jews. Were they going to massacre them anyway? I don't know. But the siege of Masada, the last stand of the Jews, is celebrated by many Jewish people, many non-Jewish people as like, look, okay, you've got your rules, you've got what you believe by, and no surrender, no retreat. To the end, we're going to give our lives rather than give in to the enemy. Now, I've got another point of view, and I'm going to tie it back to the Palestinians, because after all, we're all Semites, aren't we? Well, Palestinians and the Israelis certainly are. They're Semites. Yes. So, rather than be anti-one Semite or anti-another Semite, let's just explain how the last 70 years is exactly like the siege of Masada, when the Jewish people, rather than submit to the Romans, decided to throw their own children off a cliff. Right. Look, the whole world is like watching. We all love an underdog because we all love drama. We all love to see the boxer or the football team, you know, defeat the big one. And it's more dramatic. And we all like that schadenfreude of laughing at the big team. Ha 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 ha, look at that. When like the Faroe Islands beat fucking Germany or whatever, you know, in football, everyone's like, ha ha, fuck you Germans, or whoever. Now, Israel is a first world country, one of the richest countries in the world, even though it's got a tiny population. Super advanced. Jewish people as a whole have a higher IQ. I'm not going to go into too much except by saying the Jewish people have been hounded and attacked and pogromed all over the world for thousands of years, and so it's like this kind of, almost like a kind of reverse eugenics. The Jewish people had to become very smart, very clever, very shrewd, very good at business, very good at living in urban areas. So Israel is a Western nation. Israel, biggest ally of America. And they're absolutely bombing shit out of the Palestinians. So what the world sees little fucking David, and again, let's flip it around. Little Palestinian David. And they see Israel as the giant Goliath. And when David's little sling goes, oh, and Goliath gets taken out, everyone's like, yeah, fuck you, Goliath. So the whole world right now are looking at the Palestinians and the Israelis, and there's nothing the Israelis can do because they are the overdog. And all the Palestinians need to do is not surrender. And they come across as heroic and, you know, warriors to the end. No surrender, no retreat. These are the modern day Spartans. No. What the Palestinians are doing, what Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, imagine naming your military unit a Martyrs Brigade. Anyway, what they're actually doing in their continued last standness, they are allowing rich Saudi princes, Iranian rich people, you know, Bahraini, Qatar royalty, Saudi royalty, allowing them to donate money. Here, you are the warriors of Islam. Here you go. Keep fighting those Jews. Keep fighting the Jews. Woohoo! And the Palestinians oblige. You know, they don't want to give up. And so the Arabs, the donations, here, even the European Union, here, have another 100 billion. What does Hamas do? Do they build a new school? No, they build a bloody super advanced terror tunnels. Tunnels! Underground tunnels like bloody underground demons. So to wrap this up, how is the Palestinian last stand just like the Jewish last stand at the siege of Masada in the first Jewish-Roman war of 70 AD? Well, both the Jews in that citadel and the Palestinian grown-ups in Gaza are holding their own children hostage. And to prove a political point, they both sacrificed hundreds of children, thousands of children in Palestine. And just yesterday, in the fog of war, who's telling the truth? Israel says they bombed 20 Hamas positions, killed 25 Hamas operatives. And Hamas says that Israel bombed fuck all and killed 20 kids, little children. And I turned on Al Jazeera English for a different viewpoint. Again, it's Hamas's ally, the Qatar-owned Al Jazeera, owned by the Al Thani family in Qatar. Big friends of Hamas. They showed an image of 3 dead little kids, toddlers. And as a father with 3 little children, for fuck's sake, propaganda is so powerful because it hits you underneath your balls. Logic, reason, hits you on your balls. But emotions goes underneath your balls. And that's where it gets you. So is it ever right when you've got millions of children living in a built-up area, whether it's a citadel under siege, whether it's the strip of Gaza, is it okay to have a super high-intensity insurrection when there's little children around? No. So to all the Semites in this situation, to all the Israelis, to all the Hamas, to all the Palestinians that want to keep up the fight, you're nothing except people who sacrifice children. You're no better than the Aztecs or the Mayans chopping up a little girl and cutting her heart out and saying, look, son, give us good crops. Both sides, both the Israelis and Palestinians, are no better than these deranged maniacs who literally kill their own children as a sacrifice. Stop it.